Okay, hi there, Yurts. Another episode of Yearbook University having to do with design. We're kind of progressing on through and getting to the closer end of the official Yearbook University. So today we're going to talk about grid structure and kind of designing with a grid in mind, which is how we design the pages in the yearbook. So, grid structure. When we design with a grid, looking at our pages on Yearbook Avenue, which we're going to log on to today, when we look at a spread, in the middle of the spread, we have what's called the gutter, which I've used that term quite a bit. The gutter is where the two pages are sewn together in the book. So the book, you have all those pages, they come together in the gutter, and you've got the binding, and then it goes inside the cover. So how we design in art, in the spacing and the measurement that graphic designers and in yearbook, not art, how we measure things is not by inches or by centimeters or millimeters. We use a measurement called a pica. So what you need to know is when you look on Yearbook Avenue, each column that you're going to see is separated by one pica. So one of these little squares is a pica. And a pica figures into about roughly 1/6 of an inch. So make sure in your notes that you have down what a pica is and what it is kind of proportional to our usual metric system in normal life. So on this spread we can see that we have 24 columns. So we work in a column grid format. And within that, they are separated and squared into picas. Now, each kind of space or tap on your keyboard to move something over in little increments, those move over in points. So points accumulate into picas. Okay, so moving on. When we design in Yearbook using a grid, we always want to place the dominant photo first. When we place the dominant photo, we always want it to touch the edges of a grid box. So we want to keep in mind that we're using the grid. We don't want to have things going off in part of a grid or a fraction of a grid. We always want to make it kind of a whole measurement. That way it makes it easier on you as a designer, and then also everybody else on the team to figure out measurements and things like that. Keep in mind the things that we talked about as far as dominant photos, where you place them, how they work best. Here we have the dominant going across the gutter. The eye line will be down here at the bottom, but we can see that it eases up to each one of the column measurements. Next, we add in the eye line to unify the spread. Usually that's a standard thing. We have one or two eye lines in the book. Notice that it too touches the grid. Next, you should add in the dominant copy to kind of fill in. For flexibility, usually 5 columns are used as far as width-wise for a larger story. 5 columns is a good width measurement. You don't want to make your larger stories too narrow because then it's really hard for your readers to read, and too wide is very tiring for your readers to read. So about 5 column width wise is really pleasing. If you divide it into 2 columns of text, 6 works really well with a space in between. Around that general size works really well as far as readability. Followed by the headline. So you can add in lines. It's a great graphic element that we're pulling this year. Headlines you want to be about 2 times the size as any other text on the page. Okay, so twice the size, your dominant headline, as any of the other text on the page. Make sure it's big and really apparent that it is the dominant headline. Followed by additional module captions. We want to place photos on the spread kind of working from the center outwards. Notice that they also correspond with the grid format of the page. Then you place caption boxes. Caption should be a consistent size, so the caption box should be relatively about the same size overall, so you kind of get this repetition and overall scale. Also, we use the same size text for captions throughout the book to kind of keep that consistency going. Then you can fill in remaining white space with some of your feature coverage. So here they have an extended quote kind of to fill up the space. followed by this bar on the bottom to kind of create a little feature. So you can kind of see how they play around the grid, starting off with your biggest elements being placed first and then moving to the outside as far as your designing, keeping in mind spacing and working within the parameters of your grid. And then in a future episode we'll talk about different levels of spacing, talking about white space and how that works as far as the proximity of content. Okay guys, that's designing around a grid. Hopefully you got some good ideas going about the process and how you should sort of work from the inside out. Can't wait to see your notes. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.